Good evening. Welcome everybody to another Allan Kardec Spiritist Group of New Zealand meeting. So as you can tell, it's a different setup today because we are in lockdown in New Zealand and I believe in most of the countries, and we decided to keep doing our weekly activities, our public meetings, and tonight to be a lecture. And so that means we will keep doing our lectures, but from our own places. And tonight, you guys are at my place. And please be patient with us because it's a little bit different setup and technology, but I'm sure the spiritual plan is going to help us to do our best. So welcome everybody that are here right now and those that are going to watch us later. And to start with, we're going to do our initial prayer. Just gonna put some music as well. Dear God, Jesus, our Master, our friends, spiritual guides, thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thank you for inspiring us. Would you like to ask permission to start another Allan Kardec meeting? Thank you. So be it. Alright, so we know already all set up to start. And tonight we decide to bring the topic charity, which is a very common topic in Spiritism, and we can find charity in most of Allan Kardec codification books. We use mainly today Gospel According to Spiritism and also Spirit's book as well. And charity is a very modern topic or something from nowadays because of the current situation that we all living in at the moment. That is something that is closer to us at the moment. For example, that's sentence from Sister Rosalie reminding us when she says, I remind you that Jesus said we are all brothers and sisters. In other words, we are all on the same boat. In the current situation, we can tell that we are all the same. We all being affected by the crisis, we all being affected by the pandemic. Doesn't matter how rich people are, how poor, country, nationality, we all have the same risk and we all have also the same opportunity to do good and to come out of the situation even stronger than we came in. So basically, at this moment is a great opportunity to practice our charity, if we want to, if we are aware. And but unfortunately, many people are not going to see that, are not going to do that. But let's hope that most of us use this opportunity to become better and to make the use of charity. But why are we talking about charity? Why we talk so much about charity in the Spiritist place or in the centers, and do we actually know what is charity and how to do it? So in order to try to understand a bit more of charity, we did a little research, and because apart from Spiritism, if we don't go to it, many times we're gonna think about the material charity rather than the charity that Spiritism brings, which is more of the moral charity. So when we hear the word charity, what is it? It's to give something to somebody, it's to give some money, some clothes, some food, some financial support. That's the main idea, that's the general idea. And even that one, which is very important, and we should do when we can and when we have the ability to do. Even that one can be a little bit tricky sometimes, as we might say, how can we practice charity if we don't have the means? That's something very common to hear people saying, And some people also may say, well, if I win lotto, I'll be very charitable. I'll be able to help lots of people. If I had more money, I could do more. So, but that is just a little part. It's just one type of charity. And there are many other ways of practicing charity, and we're gonna look at them. So that one is common. We all know about it. We all have done it. And it's not the one that Spiritists focus the most. Because we found really interesting a passage from Gospel According to Spiritists that is a say from St. Paul. And we're going to analyze that, and from there we can extract a charity that is a little bit deeper than the material charity, the charity that we know. And this passage is called The Need for Charity, according to St. Augustine. The word need got my attention because it's a very strong word when related to charity. Because what are the things that we need in life in general, at least in the material world? There are a few things that are basic for us, we must have, such as air, otherwise we can't breathe. We need water, we need to drink water, we need to eat, we need to sleep. So there are some things that are basic for us. And when we put charity on the same list, looks a little bit strange, right? What is charity doing there? Why do we need charity? In what sense do we need charity? Do we actually believe that we need it? So what St. Paul told us, it's very clear and also explain why we need charity. So let's go and break it down and explain bit by bit of it. So the first bit relates to speak. And I'm sure most of you know already this. Some people think that Renato Russo actually created the lyrics, but of course was not, right? So just to clarify, not from Renato Russo, it's from St. Paul. Even though Renato Russo has a song that sings exactly these lyrics, are almost the same. So even if I were to speak all the language of men and all the language of the angels themselves, if I did not have charity, I would only be like a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal. So just to clarify, gong and cymbal are musical instruments, and because I even didn't know the meaning of it. And so even if we could speak many languages from men and from the angels, without charity, we would be just like noise, just a noise, nothing else. What does it mean? Even if we speak about God, Jesus, charity, kindness, all the good things, if we speak about it, if we tell people how to do, if we don't practice charity, it's just a noise, it's no value, it's no meaning. Also, he talks about the knowledge. And if I were to have the gift of prophecy and grasped all mysteries, and if I had a perfect knowledge of all things, without charity, there would be no point. So, of course, knowledge is very important. The more that we make an effort to learn about God, Jesus, spirituality, ourselves, is always a plus for us. We need to study, we need to understand, we need to acquire knowledge throughout our lives. But even if we know a lot, even if we know most of the things, if we do that, if we learn and we don't apply through charity, again, there is no meaning. It's something empty. And then St. Paul talks about the faith as well. And even if I had all the faith possible to the point of moving mountains, if I did not have charity, I would be nothing. We understand that faith is really important for us, In many of the passages of the Gospel, and when we study the Spirit's book as well, we understand that faith is fundamental in our life. Faith can bring us hope of the future, faith in God, faith in ourselves, faith in the plurality of the universe, and many other things will help us to keep going, will help us to progress. And in the current situation, it's even more important for us to have faith. Yes, it's a challenge, can be hard, but we're gonna go through it, and everything has a reason, and God and the spirituality are in the command of everything. So faith is extremely important for us, but even faith being that important, St. Paul tells us that if we have faith, no charity, we would be nothing. So we're just building the understanding of the importance of charity, of practicing charity. And we're gonna get to how to do it. And he comes and now talk about the give part of it. And if I were to distribute my belongings to feeding the poor and delivering my body to be burned, if I did not have charity, none of this would be of any use to me. Here is the material charity, giving to others my belonging, giving all the things, which we're not going to take the merits of it. That's important, that can help when we give financial help to people, being food, being money, whatever it is. The material charity is very important as well. The material give, I will not say charity, but sometimes that is done without the real charity, the charity from the heart. So it's very strong, his words, to explain the need of charity. But give then would be the other one. If we do the material charity, but we don't do with our hearts, then it's any use for us. And on his talk, he also says, charity is patient, is kind and benevolent. So if we use any of the things that we saw before to give the knowledge and the faith, without the patience, the kindness and benevolence, the charity has no use. And how hard is for us to be patient, especially with those close to us. Be all the time patient with family members or partners or flatmates, or with that person that we don't get along. So it's really easy sometimes to be patient with people that think exactly like us or similar to us. Kindness. Yeah, of course, we can be kind with some people, but it's really hard to be kind with everybody all the time. And of course, the benevolence, having compassion. So all these virtues are very much related to charity. Actually, he says that is also charity. On the other hand, what is not charity? What is the opposite of it? So charity is not full of pride, and we know pride is one of our main vices that we all have. It's not disrespectful. It does not look after its own interest. So that's all the opposite of charity. It does not take offense or become upset with anything. So who of us that never become upset with things that happens to us? It's really hard nowadays to not become upset with the challenge that come to us, with people that think different to us. And I'm just gonna tell an example, actually a personal example of what is not charity, of something that I did actually. It's very strange to talk and not have lots of people looking at me, but I'll try to do my best with the camera, just a little comments. So hopefully everybody can see the image and hear everything. I hope everything is good. But okay, let's continue. So example of what's not charity, even though in the beginning could be a good intention. So one day I was going for my lunchtime and I went to Pita Pit, which is really close to my work, to just grab a wrap for me, just a snack for me. On the way was a homeless guy asking for food or money. Was a sign saying food or money, please, etc. And I had an idea to get some food for him because I was gonna get for me. I said, well, I can get for him as well. And I had some compassion at this stage at that moment. And I went, got one for me, got one for him, and came back. On the way back, I went to drop the wrap gift to him, and he crossed out on his sign the words food and just left money. And he said, oh, I don't want your food anymore, I have enough, I just want money now. At that moment, what did I feel? I felt my pride, and I didn't feel respect for him. And I got upset. I got really upset about it, feeling, how come I bought some food for him and now he doesn't want my food? So that happens in life sometimes. Sometimes our intent is to help somebody, but we want to help in our way, own way, and that's our pride. If we start helping somebody and the person, oh, but it's not exactly what I want, can you help me in any other way? Many times we say no because we want to help on our own terms, and that is not the real charity, because then we have our vices on the way. If we were like helping from our heart, then we would offer the help, and if the person rejects, we would be fine with that. We would have done our part, because we can only control our behavior. We can't control anybody else's behavior. So sometimes the intention is good, sometimes our heart is in the right place, but then something happens on the way, which are our vices or our impatience, and end up that becomes not a charity and just an act that is meaningful. It's just a sound. It's just something empty, as we saw with St. Paul talk before. And then it's still St. Paul talking about it, saying that charity bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, tolerate all things. And tolerate, I think, is the hardest one, because tolerate has to do with patience. When we really resign to the things that happens, and when we accept the hard situations without complaining, that would be the tolerate, that we still need to work on ourselves, right? And now remains faith, hope, charity. These three. But the greatest of this is charity. So again, St. Paul puts charity on the top, even above hope and faith, which again, we're not saying isn't important, because it's fundamental, it's very important for us in any circumstances, any times of our life. We need the faith to keep going. We need the faith to believe in something better and believe in God, pretty much. But charity is even more important than faith and hope, and we're going to find out why. So just a little summary to understand the need of charity. Sorry if it's a bit repetitive, but for me it was very important to understand that word, why that word need was there. So we can speak, we can know a lot, we can have faith, we can give, do the material charity, but without charity there is no salvation. In spiritist terms, instead of salvation, we would say evolution. So therefore, we need charity for our evolution. That's why we need charity, for our evolution. And we know that we were all created simple and ignorant, but we were created with seeds of love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness, all the good things that we are going to develop throughout our many lives that we have. So evolution, it's a given, is gonna happen definitely, for sure. Some of us are going to go faster, some of us are going to do the evolution a little bit slower. But the need for charity then is for our evolution. So I thought that was really interesting how St. Paul was so wise to bring to us this lesson so beautifully to explain about charity and the need of it for our evolution. And then going back to Gospel according to Spiritism on chapter 15, we're just going to explore and go a little bit deeper in the charity. I think you probably can't see the writing here, but I'm gonna read for you anyway. So charity and humility, such is the only path to salvation. So there is no other way for us to evolve. So every single human being, every single spirit, whether on the earth or any other place, will need charity for the evolution. Here it says salvation, but we read and understand as evolution. So not only charity, but humility. Because if we do charity with our pride, as we saw before, or being disrespectful, or with our selfishness, is not real charity. So needs both charity and humility. Selfishness and pride are the paths to ruin. So selfishness and pride is the opposite of charity and humility, exactly the opposite. This principle is found to be formulated on the following precise terms. So there is a summary of charity here now. Love your God with all your soul and your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets are contained in these two commandments. All that you do against your neighbor, you also doing against God. Therefore, it's not possible to love God without practicing charity towards one neighbors. All of the mankind, obligations are resuming the maximum. Without charity, there is no salvation. So that's the key. And when you say love your God and your soul and your neighbor as yourself, when we love, of course, we do the charity. So love and charity are synonymous, are pretty much the same in a way. Because if we can't love our neighbors, that means we can't love God. If we mistreat a neighbor, we are in a way mistreating God. So the main commandment, love your God with all your soul and your neighbor as yourself. And without charity, there is no salvation, there is no evolution. Okay, but in a way, we could just maybe have a different intention on it. We could say, okay, one day I can evolve, but I don't want to do right now. Why would I bother to change? Why would I bother to do charity in a different way from now on? Because it's hard, right? We are used to do things in our own way. Why would we change? Is there any motivation? Is there anything to look forward? Why should we be worried, or why should we invest in our evolution? So one great motivation would be eternal happiness, which is really hard for us to even understand what that looks like in our future, because of course it's really far away. But our destiny is to one day also reach the eternal happiness, and we're going to explain a little bit about it and why. All the moral teaching of Christ resumes itself in the need for charity and humility, as we saw before. That is to say, in the two virtues which are contrary to selfishness and pride. In all of his teaching, Jesus indicates these two virtues as being the one which leads to eternal happiness. So that's all connecting now, right? So charity made with our from our hearts and from our intention, and the real one, not the one to show others, not the one with pride or with any other vices. So charity and humility is the only way for evolution, and is also the only way to the eternal happiness. But we do know that in this planet there is no perfect happiness, right? At the moment, especially, we see lots of suffering everywhere in the planet. Suffering plus opportunities, and we talked a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more later. But in a way, in this planet, we can only see, and that we can find also in the Spirit's book, we can find moments of happiness. And what are moments of happiness? That may vary from person to person. For some people could be traveling, as in some other people, they hate travel, they don't like it, that doesn't make them happy. That sometimes make people stressed about having to pack, sleep in other place and do the flights and things like that. Doing the garden, some people like it. I would be very upset doing the garden because it's not something that I enjoy. For example, dancing, singing, I love dancing, so for me dancing is happiness. Singing could be happiness for me, but not for others that are listening to my singing. As in, for my brother Mani, he's a great singer, so when he sings he's happy, and everybody around him is gonna be happy as well. So playing a favorite sport, some people like playing soccer, rugby, cooking, some people like, some people don't like. Cleaning, some people really like cleaning, believe it or not. Not everybody, but there is a small portion of the population that is happy when they clean something. Fishing, the exception on this list is really helping others, because helping others make every one of us happy. We all feel happier when we help others from our hearts, when we see that we were able to alleviate someone else's suffering, when we're able to bring some comfort to someone. And more, the more we practice our charity, the happier we'll be. So getting to eternal happiness will take a while, will take a long time, but the more we practice charity, the closer we'll be to being happier more often. Then we'll have more moments of happiness. And exploring a little bit more on the Gospel according to Spiritism, I found something that I thought was really interesting, especially when people don't know very well what's charity, how do I do charity. So if it's not speaking about good things, if it's not knowing things, or if it's not giving, what then is charity? How can I practice my charity? And the answer is actually in Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 13, item 10, when they say, the Superior Spirit says, friends, there are thousand of ways of practicing charity. Thousands. So it's not only one. That means every day there are opportunities for charity if we look closer, if we pay attention. Every day in our daily lives, throughout the situations that happens. You may do this by means of thoughts, words, and actions, and even describes the ways that we can do that. Ways of thoughts, and this little part is also from Gospel. A prayer from your heart will alleviate their suffering, the suffering of those in need. So right now we all can pray, right? We can pray towards someone that we know is going through a difficult situation. Someone that may lost a loved one, a parent, a brother, a sister. We can pray towards the ones that we know are in a much harder situation at the moment because of the pandemic, for example. So everybody was affected, but there are those that were mostly impacted by it. We can pray wishing the best to our friends, to our family, to that person that we find hard to get along, that person that we want to ask for forgiveness, or the person that we need to forgive. So through our thoughts we can pray. Not only pray, but also having thoughts, positive thoughts, thoughts of happiness will help everybody around us, because most of the place we're still in this planet of trial and expiations. So sometimes the negativity is really strong, but if we go against that current, we can have the positivity, we can have positive thoughts, thoughts of great gratitude. They are so important. They can help so much our environment. If we have thoughts of gratitude in our workplace, at our place, and thoughts of forgiveness, so we can practice charity through our thoughts, and that's written in the Gospel according to Spiritism. Words. By giving, I didn't put the marks there, but it's also from Gospel according to Spiritism, by giving good advice to your daily companions. So our daily life, it's really busy, isn't it? Everything is really fast, usually in normal times, and sometimes we don't stop to give good advice or give a word of encouragement, a word of faith, a word of support. So we can definitely be charitable through our words, motivation. Sometimes people just Sometimes people just need to listen that they will be fine, they can do it. So, and especially if someone asks for our help, definitely we should be charitable towards our words. And even if we receive an offense, to reply in a positive note is also charity, instead of returning the negativity. So these are all ways of practicing charity, and they all for free. Don't rely on money, don't rely on social status, don't rely on knowledge, just rely in our hearts, in our willingness to help, and to help someone else to be better, to alleviate other people's suffering. And the third one is actions, which is probably well known for us, that actions should be something that we do for others. But again, we don't need to go to the material charity. We can simply give our time, our attention, let people know that we are there, and even if it's virtually, we can be there for others. And sometimes that's hard as well. Sometimes a friend just, shall we go catch up for coffee? Can you help me with this? Oh, so sorry, I'm busy, so many things, I don't have time. So every day, probably every day for most of us, we miss opportunities of practicing our charities. And if we look at it, it's very simple, right? Because we naturally have thoughts anyway, but we need to be more aware and control them. We naturally use words, even verbally or written words, and we all have to act. But it's important then to be aware, pay attention, and always focus and have in the back of our minds that we should have a charitable attitude towards everything and everyone in our lives. But of course there are obstacles to it. We still spirits in evolution, we still have vices in ourselves in different levels, in different situations, but we all do. So selfishness is a big one, and we all have it. And the selfishness is definitely on the way of our practicing charity. Selfishness, and again we went to Gospel according to Spiritism. Selfishness is the target at which all believers should point their arms, towards which all strength and courage should be direct. So we need to really look after our selfishness, pay attention, identify, and work towards the opposite, which is charity. I say courage because this will be greatly needed by each individual if they are to triumph over themselves rather than triumph over others. Emmanuel. So, and sometimes we don't even notice, but a very simple example that most of us saw on the news when the pandemic news started and not everybody, I'm sorry, some people went to buy lots of toilet paper, lots of pasta or rice. This is clearly the humanity, what we still have of selfishness. Me first. I'm gonna look after myself. The others, they can look after themselves. So that is just an example, but we need to pay attention in ourselves and see when and what circumstances we use our selfishness. What circumstances we are me first, I'll go and I want everything, that's for me. And maybe I just can give the leftover to others if it's something that I don't want to wear anymore, if something is really old. But yeah, we all need to be aware and look after our selfishness. To be good and charitable, that's the key to heaven, which you hold in your hands. So we all have this in ourselves, not developed yet, but on the way, work in progress. The entirety of eternal happiness is contained in this maximum. Love one another. Charity is the fundamental virtue upon which all earthly virtues are based. So it's the fundamental one. That's why St. Paul told us that it's even above hope and faith is charity, and is the key for our progress, is the key for our evolution. So then we go into the Spirit's book, which has a very clever question from Allan Kardec to the superior spirits. He wants to know what Jesus understands of charity apart from the things that he already told us. What is the true meaning of the word charity as employed by Jesus? So the answer is benevolence for everyone, indulgence for imperfections of others, forgiveness of injuries. It's a very short answer, but has lots into it. So the benevolence for everyone has to do with our actions. Every time we act upon something, a situation, if we are benevolent, if we are kind, if we have compassion, we are practicing our charity. Indulgence for the imperfections of others, that can be really hard because sometimes we see the imperfection of others that are ours as well. And then it's really hard for us to, in a way, forgive the imperfections or not judge the imperfection of others. But when we reach a charitable heart or a charitable state, we are going to understand and be indulgent and tolerant and understanding towards the imperfection of others, because we all have imperfections, right? We have lots of them. So why can't we forgive, or why can't we understand the imperfection of others if we also have our ones? And finally, the forgiveness of injury. So it's really hard to forgive, right? And it has to do with our feelings. And sometimes we want to, but we don't get to do it. So it's a really big challenge because it has to do with our pride as well, and which is a vice that we have. But when we manage to be more charitable, we'll be able to have more benevolence for everyone, indulgence for imperfections of others, and forgiveness of injuries. And that takes us back to the beginning, when Jesus said that we are all brothers and sisters. And if we all brothers and sisters will be able to see others as ourselves, we'll be able to see that everybody has imperfections, everybody has also qualities, and then we'll be able to forgive and love others and help others. So, in summary, if we feel, think, and act toward goods, toward doing goods, and doing the best for others, we'll be then practicing charity and slowly getting closer to our eternal happiness. Slowly, right? Many lifetimes, but we'll get there, definitely get there. So here is our master, our best friends, our best example of how we can practice charity. And one of his main teaching, we could say it is this: love your God with all, actually the main commandment, love your God with all your soul and your neighbor as yourself, our Master Jesus. So this is the main lesson of tonight, the charity. If we love God and we love our neighbors as ourselves, little by little, slowly by slowly, we will be practicing charity until reach the real one. So thank you everybody for being here, virtually, online. Hopefully it was possible to understand the lesson. Hopefully it was possible to understand the lesson and everything. And and that we can really use this opportunity now of a different situation in our lives, everybody's life. And there are many opportunities for us to really practice charity. And we're just gonna do a final prayer before we finish. Dear Lord, Jesus our Master, spiritual friends, is with our hearts full of gratitude and love that we thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. Let's use this opportunity to vibrate to our planet Earth. Lots of peace, compassion, and kindness. Thank you so much. So be it. So thank you guys for being here, and just a reminder that every Wednesday then we'll be connected with you, or whoever wants to go to our Facebook page. Next week we have a study group. We'll be studying Gospel According to Spiritism and the Spirit's book as well. So Wednesday 7 o'clock will be online throughout the lockdown, and then keep an eye on the posts on Facebook. We will inform as soon as something changes, when something changes. So hopefully everybody can have a peaceful night, a great week. And if you want to keep in touch with us, you can email us or send a message via messenger as well. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.